When I have talked before about essentially what has been really the failure over this past, 13 years of conservative administration, it has been one of we are going to invest, we are going to invest, we're going to spend, and we're going to make sure that we grow the economy, that we bring back jobs to the north. And yet, ultimately, this has been a story of continued failure. It all begins, of course, with the Northern Powerhouse. Again, a great start. And what would have been actually good had David Cameron actually followed through on it. It would have been, or at least meant, unleashed hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of investment into these left behind areas, and it would have brought new jobs, investment. It would have been great. But, of course, what happened? Well, the Conservatives went, eh, as they always do. That's a bit too much. That's a bit too expensive. Maybe we can, give the North a bit less money. Other conservative MPs came out and well, the North's getting all that money. Why don't we get some of that money? Only for people to turn around and go, well, actually, you've actually had quite a lot of money over the past couple of years. It's that the North is in desperate need. Any excuse to try and stop it, they could. And I've always said, give credit where credit was due. The Northern Powerhouse would have been actually something good had Cameron and co followed through on it. And then, of course, we got Boris Johnson's grand levelling up campaign, which was, again, not a serious investment of money into the UK, into these areas that needed it. And we've recorded the various failures and the local councils saying, well, yeah, this funding was available, but we've been forced to bid and try and compete against other councils who also need this money. So the question then becomes, well, why not just give money to the areas that actually need it? Of course, we've talked before about the numerous failures of that program, but today we're actually talking about the Labour idea because, as of course, as we said, I want to talk more about Labour policy. So we're going to talk about Labour's new plan because it looks like they are going to copy Biden's green energy revolution that he has been doing in America, titled the Inflation Reduction Act. Because there was a ton of scuttlebutt about that recently, and I think it's not Angela Rayner, Rachel Reeves is actually going over to America recently, I believe this week, to actually talk to some of the key architects about the Inflation Reduction Act, especially focusing on the investment and how they've been driving investment into these places, because it has been, from all accounts, from what we can see so far, does look like it actually is going to be quite successful. So let's get into this then, because I think it's well worth sort of going over, especially if they're going to sort of look at replicating this here in the UK. I think it will be quite good. So, as always, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one foundation link called Buy Me Coffee, waking up, buy me coffee. And of course, as always, the YouTube thank you button and the Pony Club down below as well. So, let's go cracking on into this then. The story was in The Guardian with the title of "The Labour Planning a £8 billion Biden-style green energy revolution." So the Labour Party is planning to put the UK at the head of a worldwide green industrial revolution with a massive US-style public-private investment scheme targeting the most deprived regions. Excellent. Now, of course, they just have to do it, which we've always said, but that's actually a serious number, an actual dead serious number, and it's certainly more than Boris Johnson was putting forward with his levelling up scheme. And it also comes with a very tight actual industrial plan. It's not just, yeah, we're going to level up. Oh, here's all this money. Oh, great. Now what are you going to do with it? you know, that is the conservative way of doing things. Here we've actually got a beginnings of a plan to go through with this, and of course this involves, you may have heard it before, Labour's new National Wealth Fund, which will be in targeting specifically going forward, helping really to do this. I think this is a really good idea that they've actually got on this National Wealth Fund. So, in an interview with The Observer, Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor, who will travel to Washington in May to meet senior Democrats, says that the Labour government will follow the model of the US President Joe Biden and its hugely ambitious regional recovery plan, using the climate crisis as a catalyst for economic revival. She says that Labour's new National Wealth Fund will be endowed with the initial £8 billion of funding from the state, but which is hoped it will then pull in private investment, which will be given a specific remit to focus on a green industrial revival in deprived areas with regional targets to create hundreds of thousands of jobs outside of London and, and in the southeast. And straight away, just that alone massively increases um, the well anything that Boris Johnson put forward as a levelling up idea. So ahead of the spring budget on Wednesday, in which the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt will be under pressure to prevent an exodus of UK green energy industries to the US and the EU, both of which are preparing incentives to lure green firms from overseas. Both Labour and the Tories are determined to ensure that the UK will not be left behind. And I think that will happen because I don't think the Tories are interested in doing anything with green technologies. Like I say, we know there's the Net Zero Scrutiny Group, and they've been kicking off continuously over anything to do with anything green in the name at all. So I don't think we will see anything in the budget. I'll be surprised if we do. But hey. Um, Hunt is set to announce at least a 20 billion investment in technology to reduce Britain's carbon emissions in the budget, as well as plans to try and boost the nuclear sector with a competition to develop not small nuclear reactors, or the SMRs. Many UK companies, Reeves said, were desperate to invest in areas such as onshore wind, offshore wind, tidal wave energy, green hydrogen, and carbon capture and storage. But they feared that without government backing of the partnership of the models that is being pioneered by Biden in his Inflation Reduction Act, they will just not get off the ground, saying the Tories are the last people in town to believe that there is this laissez-faire approach for leaving it all so that the market can work. Everyone else recognizes in the world that such a huge change and increase in competition between nations for this investment. You have to have this partnership approach, she said. All of this is up for grabs, and no one is doing a lot of stuff at that scale yet. We could be global leaders in some of this. There are really uncertainty because the growth is so low. This would be real leveling up, where the government has failed. And we've got a serious plan, and we just want the chance to get on with it and get it started. Several key UK-based companies are now examining where best to operate. Jaguar Land Rover's owner, Tata Motors, which has reportedly asked the UK government for more than £500 million in state subsidies to build a battery factory down in Somerset, a move seen as critical to the future of the entire British car industry. Reeves said that we are going to get electric vehicle production and batteries here, but we just haven't. Jaguar Land Rover and Britain's biggest car manufacturer are on the verge of making a really big decision, and it is crucial that the batteries are produced by JLR in Britain, or as night follows day, more car production will move overseas. Of course, in January, the UK battery startup Britishvolt collapsed into administration, with the majority of over its 300 staff made redundant after the talks about a rescue bids failed. The company's efforts to build a large factory near Blyth came unstuck as it struggled to find cash and an injection of it to try and pursue the project. It has now been bought by an Australian company. Labour is also committed to investing at least £28 billion a year, or over £224 billion over its first 8 years in government, on climate measures. Reeves says that it will now aim to create over 400,000 new jobs over a decade from the green industrial projects, in which the UK public will have a stake, including 50,000 in the Northwest and Yorkshire, 30,000 in the Northeast, and the East Midlands and West Midlands and East England. Reeves is planning to meet the key architects of the Inflation Reduction Act during a visit in May and to make a speech there to show that the UK can deliver global leadership on climate change and on new industries and the future of economic thinking. So, overall, we are now entering, I think, really starting to see something good emerge here. I think if we do something very similar, a sort of this Inflation Reduction Act, and bear in mind it has had a big success recently. I believe it was might have been General Motors. I can't remember which car manufacturing plant it said. They, instead of moving to Canada or Mexico because of the Inflation Reduction Act, because of the subsidies that they got from the Biden administration in that act, they instead explicitly then moved to I think it was Flint, Michigan. They've gone there and they've cited Biden's Inflation Reduction Act as that point. And just as you said there, we've got Jaguar Land Rover, one of Britain's biggest car manufacturers, saying, "Hey, we want £500 million in subsidies because we want to help create batteries here in the UK." And well, depending if the government's going to actually do that or not, we don't know. I mean, we've all seen what happened to British Volt. I think the Australian people who have bought it out have massively scaled back the plant and the sort of the production factory that was originally going to be built. So there is some real big decisions. We said, the UK car manufacturing industry is wanting to go toward this green, uh, future, but it needs batteries being made. If not, it might as well go to Europe because, well, Europe's giving the subsidies, Europe's giving the investment, Europe's got all the opportunities. So it just goes to show you that this is an actual serious attempt at leveling up. And it's not just in around the car manufacturing industry, it's also looking at the green industrial technology as well. So going forward, I think Rachel Reeves, as we've said before, people underestimate Rachel Reeves. If she comes in, she will be the greenest chancellor we have ever had. And this is, again, go look up other stuff that she said that she wants to do in a Labour government, and what we want. We've got the new sovereign wealth fund that will be big. That will be a big charter for investment going directly being funneled from the UK government into the UK. So there's big opportunities here, and I think this is a really good start. This is a really good start, and I think it's something that we should be looking at and celebrating. Because I've said it before: if another country it brings in a policy and it's shown to be working, as with the Inflation Reduction Act, then why not, as Rachel Reeves has done, look at it? Can we do something similar over here? Can we maybe just copy and paste it, or maybe does it need a bit of tweaking? Of course, to make it work in the UK. But there's no problem with just oh, that program, that policy works really well in America, France, Germany. Thank you. There's no problem with that. So hopefully, this is something we will see go forward in the future, because this is generally a really exciting moment. And as they point out, Jaguar Land Rover is making big decisions. And I think, one of those big decisions will be, well, how much car production do we have in the UK in the future? And that's a serious question. And if that question becomes, well, maybe it's only 20-30%, the rest of that will go to Europe, America. And as we've said before, once these things go, very often they don't come back. Or if they do come back, it's very small and takes a long time to rebuild up to the level that they were at originally. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, one-off donation link, buy me coffee, etc., etc. You know the drill by now. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.